All right, today is November 8, 2018. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public, recorded, and posted on YouTube. For the agenda today, we're going to go over the items that we're working on as a SIG for Q4 2018 for the 113 release. The code freeze for this release is coming up very, very quickly. It's going to be next week, the end of next week. And then if you have anything else that you want to discuss, please feel free to add it to the agenda. Let's move on to the planning spreadsheet and get status updates from folks. First on the agenda is moving block volume support to beta. This is currently on my plate to review. I see the PR that's already out. Oh, this is for CSI, actually. Sorry, I was thinking about the core feature itself. Vlad, do you want to give an update on the CSI portion of this?
Absolutely. So last week, or maybe a couple weeks ago, we had a meeting discussing some of the gaps that still exist in CSI implementation for block. So we've decided to keep this feature in alpha for now. Given the other stuff that we have to do. Excuse me. So it'll stay alpha, and hopefully by next quarter we'll have more implementations on board, which will validate some of the decisions that were made regarding the spec.
Hey Vlad, this is Ben. Is there anything that you need help on? Because I'm motivated to move this along faster, if at all possible.
I think one of the things we ran into is the language in the spec itself, which I think recently got clarified, and that update in the spec language is going to make it to 1.0. And the other thing that we ran into is a couple of people were actually doing implementations, and they had issues understanding what clarifications were needed as to how the CO would handle certain scenario for a block. So that's why we sort of decided to keep it alpha for now. As far as work to be done, we have a PR that needs reviewed. I don't know if it's here, but I'll drop it in the CSI channel. And that PR has a lot of refactor that will basically be used for the basis when beta is when we try to take it to beta.
Okay,
so
I'll
to
look
answer
for
your
that.
question, right now it was just a momentum thing. That's why we kind of push it off. So if you needed quicker than that, we could certainly entertain it. But right now it's for next quarter.
Okay, I mean, I have a driver where it's actually working. We just need to merge the one PR from the external provisioner repo, and it's actually good.
And that one too, yeah. So that would be a third driver then that we know, because we have a couple of other folks doing block implementations. So the more validations that we have, the better. I'll if I don't post the PR, just ping me. I'll put it on Slack.
Okay.
I think, Ben, you're offering to pick up that PR, right?
Well, I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but if there's work that needs to be done, yeah, I'm volunteering to help.
I think that sounds great. As long as Vlad doesn't get pulled into it, that's great, because I want him to remain focused on the P0 things that we have for CSI. So if we could hand over the block work to you completely, and have others help review that. Maybe I think what was the person who's helping review?
I forgot the first name is. Yeah, so that PR, it's I'll post it and you can review it. I've extensively reviewed it, but certainly another set of eyes would be welcome, and it's ready to be. And this is this PR has to do with internal changes that happen in the CSI block support.
Okay, I'll look at the one that's linked here. I was looking at the one by Masaki Kimura.
Yeah, Masaki, yes. So that's the one I'm referring to.
Okay, yeah, I think it's ready to merge. It works for me. I tested it.
Okay. Awesome. I'll approve it. If no other supervisor needed on that PR, I'll go ahead and approve it so it'll be merged.
And
if
to be clear, Ben, so you're on board with the spec change that we're going to make, which says that for both block and file, the CO is responsible for generating the target path and cleaning up the target path, or deleting the target path afterwards. For file, the target path is an empty directory, and for block, the target path is an empty file.
Oh,
And,
so we'll add that language to the spec, because I noticed that that's what it was doing already, and I had an if statement, so I can remove the if statement if that language gets added to the spec.
We're going to go ahead and add that to the spec. It's part of the 1.0 work we want to get done by Friday.
Sounds great.
Cool. And so just to be clear, in your implementation, you're already doing a bind mount of the empty file?
Yes, it works fine. I mean, it was weird at first, but then once I understood what was going on, I got it to work.
Beautiful.
Okay, that sounds good.
Sure. All right. Yeah, I'm very excited about this. Do we need any more testing for this to go to beta? End-to-end tests?
Possibly end-to-end tests. I'm not sure if we have any end-to-end tests right now.
So Ben, maybe you can look into that as well.
And I did update the enhancement PR to say that we were going to remain beta, so we might have to go back.
Okay.
If we're gonna, yeah.
Okay.
So we might have to go back and update that, and then also get a documentation PR started. Today's the last day for documentation features. So
okay.
I think all of this could be done. Yep.
So have to poke feature, re-add feature to 1.13 milestone and create a empty doc PR by EOD today. Okay, Ben, are you okay owning that?
This other stuff, I'm not sure what needs to be done. I can reach you offline though, or after the meeting.
Sounds good.
Yeah, you could ping me too.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, cool. CSI driver, we're going to skip over. CSI library, moving mount library to external common repo. Any updates on this, Travis?
I'm not sure if Travis, because I know he's traveling.
Okay.
I don't have any update right now, so I'll check with him to see what's going on.
Sounds good.
But he's traveling.
Next up is the pluggable end-to-end test framework. Patrick or Brad, any updates on this? Or either?
I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Was that about the refactoring? Can you remind me what the bug number was?
This is...
Okay, well, we have multiple people working on that. I was working on refactoring the end-to-end framework so that it can be used outside of Kubernetes.
Yep.
That's done, and I've started using that in my own projects, and some colleagues have done the same. So that basically works. And Michael or someone was working on refactoring the volume tests. That is also, well, it's in master currently in Kubernetes, but using that outside of Kubernetes needs a bit more work. I've started trying that just today and ran into some issues. So some follow-up work will be needed to make those tests consumable by outside CSI drivers. But overall, we are getting closer, I would say.
Cool. So some work remaining to make useful outside of. Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Patrick. Next up is the Kubernetes Conformance process, adding tests, documentation. I don't know if there was any work that was done here.
Unfortunately, no. I apologize again. I have started working with the Inline Volume UTE tests and trying to use that as basis for writing the conformance test. I have some code, but PR is not ready yet. So
okay. No worries. Thank you for the update. Next one is provisioning capacity reporting for generic topology required for local dynamic provisioning. This is just a design for this quarter. Last we left off, there was some brainstorming going on different ideas. Are either Michelle or this person on the line?
Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, we're still brainstorming and having discussions and trying to collect requirements from various users and such.
Okay, sounds good. Next up is CSI external containers moving leader election to a lease object. Matt Wong, any updates?
Yeah, there is a PR out
Awesome.
to get a piece we need before we can do this.
Okay. And the changes here are for the leader election code. Okay. Are you getting the people who need to approve this reviewing it already?
Yeah, it seems to have some people's attention, but if not, I'll try harder to ping because it's almost code freeze.
Yep. Okay, sounds good. If you need help, I can put you in touch with Mike Denise.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. That looks great. Next up is Subpath expansion work. Michelle, any updates on this?
Yeah, so we have a KEP submitted and is in the process of being approved. So then I think, yeah, we'll start implementing it, although it will be targeted for 114.
Okay. So this is, let's say, design for this quarter then, and
yeah,
almost complete. Sounds good. Next up is, did we update the associated, oh, it was just an internal issue, okay. Iscuzzy common library to alpha. John, any updates on this?
That's merged. It's basically ready for people to start banging on and any feedback and everything. So I think the next step is the example Iscuzzy driver. I'll get that converted. I started that this morning. Hopefully that'll be done by early next week.
Okay.
And then I'd call it ready to go for alpha at least.
Okay. Or is there any further documentation, testing that needs to be added here, or can we just mark it complete?
I think that's up to other folks. I tested it, you know, with the various Iscuzzy devices that I have, but there's a lot of variation in there. So vendors that would use it, it would be great to get more input from them if they have any. Okay. If not, I guess I would just call it done. I mean,
cool. Sounds good to me. Please take a look at this if you are writing any sort of Iscuzzy driver and see if it's usable for you. I guess the next step here is using this driver for the common, or using this library for the common driver. And that looks like it has started as well. So that sounds great. Thanks a lot, John.
Yep.
Next up is in the CSI Stack, we wanted to introduce dynamic max capacity per plugin per node count. Are we still pursuing this for the quarter?
I don't think we'll be able to make it. Maybe the CSI spec change we can do, but I have opened the issue there.
Okay.
I want to get some feedback and then go from there. Like I'll just link the link the issue.
Okay. We'll see next time. I don't think it's a high priority, so if we end up slipping it to next quarter, it's not a huge deal.
Okay.
Next one is adding support for volume expansion. So I met with James yesterday. He said that he didn't have any major outstanding issues, but he wanted to take a look at the PR holistically because there had been a lot of minor changes. And then once he did that, he would be okay with it. So I think that's the next step. It's waiting on him.
Okay.
So that looks like it's in progress. We're going to skip over the drivers. Begin implementation of CSI entry plugin migration. David or Deep, are either of you on the line to give an update, or Chang?
So I'm online.
Yes.
I worked with David and Deep. This feature, I was working on the testing part of the David's change of AD controller.
Okay.
And I think Deep change is working on the provisioner part. It's kind of a slow. And I'm also picking up changes on the node side, which is the unmount and mount. Just because of the time is a little tight, so I think it might not be able to make it on the alpha.
Okay, so all right, we'll keep a close eye on it, and we'll get a status update next meeting and see how that lands. But if we have to slip into the next quarter, that's okay. I think that was somewhat anticipated. Next up is in the CSI external provisioner, we wanted to move the topology support to beta. Are either Chang or Deep on the line for a status update here?
I can give an update on behalf.
Sure.
Yeah, basically, I think this is on track. It's just missing two major items. We need to add some extra validation when we create the objects, and also we need some E2E tests for it, and they should be, or they're currently in progress.
Thanks, Michelle. So that sounds like it is on track. We're going to skip over the driver for Fibre channel and go to the Fibre channel library. Methusen was working on this. He was going to sync up with John to figure out what kind of work needed to be done. John, Methusen, did you guys get a chance to sync up and figure out the next steps here for the Fibre channel library?
I haven't heard anything on that.
Okay.
Not sure if Methusen's on the line. Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
I can ping him. I can ping him today.
Cool. Sounds good. Right. Next up is being able to test all these external libraries. So last we left off here, this was in progress and a call was planned to be set up. Either Brad or Ben, do you have any updates on this?
We had the call and we are going, we're plunking along at it. So I think we have a weekly call to discuss this. There's about, 4 or 5 people on it on Mondays. If anybody wants to be included in that, please ping me. I think there's like 3 or 4 different efforts going on. But this is in progress. And
awesome. That's great. Michelle, are you on those calls or?
Yep, I'm there.
Okay, cool. Flex volume resizing support. I believe this was merged or was very close to merge. Does anyone have a status update here?
Yeah, it is merged actually, and we are working on the documentation.
Cool.
There's a flake coming from it, like and Aniket is looking on it. So, but
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. Then moving online volume expansion to beta. Looks like last PR needed rebase and review. Were we able to get that? Hemant or Matt?
Yeah, the PR is ready for review. I added a test.
Okay. Do you know who you're waiting on for the review? Is it Hemant or somebody else?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, and there's some couple of things that we want to discuss. Maybe after this call we can discuss.
Okay.
Essentially, yeah, I mean, essentially this PR will change how the resizing used to work, or like users don't have to delete the pod and recreate it. I was just thinking if you want to make it opt-in, because like not maybe everybody want to do online all the time. That's my main concern. Was I spoke with Matthew yesterday. And
okay. We can discuss it more at the end of this call if you'd like.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is improving dependency injection for volume plugins. There is a proposal in progress. Does anybody have an update on this? Jing, Yasin? Okay, we'll skip over that. Next
I
up.
think this item is there's a mix-up. I think the one that Jing and Yasin are working on is the node shutdown stuff.
So somehow things got let's see, shutdown. Okay. Does anybody remember what this one was?
I think it's just like improve the node shutdown handling.
And let's take a look at that to make sure it aligns. Yes, it does. I know Jing has a proposal out, and that proposal needs to be taken to Node team. Proposal needs to be taken to Node team. It seems like it's mostly Node related work. Ideally, we want to get Node team to commit to doing the work.
Is it public? Can we see this?
I don't think she has shared it publicly yet, but hopefully soon.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and add this item at the bottom for whatever that is. All right, next up, topology to GA. This needed a few more tests, but was otherwise on track last time we checked. Any updates since then?
Yeah, so yeah, the only thing remaining now are the E2E test PRs, and it is very close to being merged.
Okay.
Other than that, like we've already we bumped up the feature gate, and I think that was the only other thing. Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. Thank you, Michelle. Next up, continue working on snapshots, polish, add functionality. Xing, do you have any updates on this?
So we have all the PRs out for the deletion protection reclaim policy, admissions control, just been reviewed and needs to update the PRs. So.
Okay, sounds good. There is also a change that we'd like to make at the CSI spec layer to simplify the volume status. Any updates on that?
Yes, I submitted the PR.
Oh, perfect. I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, but there is one change I want to make, but I will make that change after this meeting.
Cool, sounds good.
Yeah.
If anybody's interested, sorry.
But after that, we will need to make changes in our controllers, and all the drivers will need to change. That means that if that CSI change is merged.
Yep.
Okay.
Are any of those changes going to be in the Kubernetes code? I believe they're all in the external snapshot controller.
External snapshot or code, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we should be okay then.
Okay, but all the drivers needs to be updated.
Yes. Hopefully this is the last time. Break it, because we are finally going to 1.0. Okay, next up is automated end-to-end testing of CSI sidecar containers before release, both major and minor versions. So last status here was end-to-end testing is done manually before releases, not done for bug fix releases and individual components. Any update on this, Patrick?
No, but that's really something that we need to discuss in the entire team.
Yep.
I have some thoughts, and with all these changes and improvements that we are making in the end-to-end testing, I think we are getting closer to the point where SIG Storage or the CSI working group could run their own CI system using the end-to-end tests to verify that our sidecar containers work, say, against different Kubernetes versions, even not just the latest one. But we haven't really started that discussion, to be honest.
Okay. Sounds good. Probably a good item for next quarter. Moving the CSI spec to 1.0. This is work in progress right now. There are about 5 P0 issues that we've identified and we want to get fixed. PRs for most of them are in review. Ideally, we want all the open PRs changes for 1.0 to be merged by Friday end of day, and then cut a CSI 1.0 RC on Monday, and then have Kubernetes pick it up on Thursday when the official release is cut. When the RC is cut, we can begin the work to start doing the Kubernetes changes, and as soon as the official one is cut on Thursday, we pick it up right before the code freeze. It is a very tight deadline, which is why we consider this the biggest risk for CSI to GA. But the plan is currently in motion, and although it's tight, it does seem like we may be able to hit it. So let's see where this lands. If you're interested in CSI at all, please keep an eye on the PRs and issues that are flying around. We had a one-off community meeting yesterday to discuss things. But if you're interested at all in what's going on with CSI, please take a look, because things are going to get locked down very soon. And after 1.0, we don't want to make any breaking changes. If there's anything you've been meaning or hoping that would change in CSI, now's the time to get your word in. It's down to the last minute, so please do so. Next up is the CSI, other CSI things that we need to get CSI to GA, moving CSI persistent volume source and volume attachment API objects to V1. This is work in progress. Jordan is currently reviewing it. Anybody else have anything to add to that? I think that's pretty much it. Kubelet device plugin registration mechanism. This has a lot of external dependencies on folks outside of the storage SIG. Vlad has been wrangling them. Any new updates here, Vlad?
No. So I saw your entry on the PR. I think it was yesterday you added something, but I haven't heard back from the reviewers. So probably today we probably should. I'll ping Vish again and see what else he can offer.
Yeah, we also
as far as
talked.
review.
Saad and I talked to Vish yesterday, and I think we should have everything resolved. So we just need to ping him today.
Awesome. That sounds good.
Okay. Next up is the CRD installation mechanism. This PR was merged. There was an issue with alpha clusters. I've sent out a PR that is awaiting review and merge for that fix. And
also, for this, are there plans to update the deployment for other environments?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention next is we need to open up issues against different deployers to have this enabled by default. Or at least enabled for alpha. And then if we actually do decide to move this to beta, we need to have it enabled by default. So what I plan to do is go and open issues against KubeADM and other deployers to get this on their radar. If anybody knows of a better way, let me know. Otherwise, that's going to be my approach. Deployers need to enable this. We'll open.
I do have a question, Saad. Somebody, what would the deployers do? Would they include?
There's a
the add-on
flag that basically they would include the add-on.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think every add-on that exists in cluster/add-ons, the deployer needs to specifically opt into using. There is a kube up script that is part of the Kubernetes deployment script. That's already been updated, but that's just one mechanism of deploying. There's probably 10 or 15 different ways to deploy Kubernetes, and whichever deployment mechanism you have needs to opt into using that new add-on.
Okay. And as a user, I can do that.
As long
can
as
I add the add-on?
I think it depends on how you're doing the deployment and what type of customization you have on that.
Okay.
If you don't want to use the add-on, it would be as simple as doing a kubectl create-f manually, but ideally we want to avoid have the deployers just have the add-on so that the user doesn't have to do it manually. But yes, that's possible.
All right, thank you.
Related to this is number 39, which I'm just going to slide up here, which is moving the CSI driver and CSI node info objects to beta. This is now blocked on another item, which is the changes to CSI node info object for migration. Any updates on any of that work? Either David or anybody else who's working on this? I think Fabio was working on it, or?
Yeah, exactly. I have a PR open for it, but yeah, I have to wait for David's PR to get merged first so we can rebase.
Yeah, and David is making some substantial changes to the CRD spec because it turns out we did the whole spec status thing completely wrong.
Status is being changed. Is it the nested in a list kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be an issue. Okay. Fixed. Do we have an ETA for that?
I think David's working on it today, so hopefully he can get something in.
Okay. Well, we'll keep a close eye on that, and let's see where that lands. Next up is moving RBAC role definitions from Kubernetes to external repos.
I think we are almost done with that. There's one open doc pull request for Kubernetes CSI docs, where the example gets updated to use the external RBAC rules. And that's the last thing that needs to be done. And it's actually kind of urgent because people are figuring out that what we have in the documentation at the moment is broken. We used to point to the latest branches in various repos, and that was just bound to fail at some point. So this pull request now points to specific revisions in the external repos, which is a bit harder to update, but at least it won't break underneath us.
Okay. Feel free to ping me or Michelle for helping get those merged. Thank you for your work on that. Next up is implementing CSI pod inline volume support. Are we still pursuing this for this quarter? There is a significant amount of additional work that is required for backwards compatibility. But I want to double check with you, Vlad. Are we still going to try to push this in for
I'm sorry, I was talking on mute. We're trying. I've enlisted the help of Sergey.
Okay.
So we're gonna try. And he's also getting feedback and input from KFox. So I'm going to turn over the code that I've been working on to him, and he'll rebase on top of that and continue.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Yep.
KFox is helping review. Cool. Next up is PVC Name Transfer, which we were targeting alpha for, required for cloning. Any updates on this, John?
Yeah, so the POC is done and working. I've got the design doc for submittal just about finished, so I'll probably throw that out there. The only thing I was thinking is if we wanted to have a conversation in the SIG first before throwing it out, but I guess I could just throw it on GitHub.
Okay. Yeah, either way is okay. You can either throw the design doc out there and then have a meeting, or vice versa, up to you.
Cool.
Okay, so that looks like it's on track. Next up, data population support for other data sources like cloning. Also, I guess you were thinking about the priority of this versus the cloning pre-work.
Yeah, so I went ahead and I started working on that this week as well. So the thing that's kind of interesting about that is the changes that were merged for data source into Kubernetes already, and the API group field. I think we can just leverage those and use them. So I've got some code working right now, and the only changes were to the external provisioner and some slight tweaks into the Kubernetes code to let the different API groups in.
Okay. I believe the current in-tree data source comments itself to say don't use this for anything other than snapshots.
Yep. So the proposal would be
loosen that.
From my viewpoint, is to modify that and allow not only PVCs. Well, those will work anyway because they're native objects. But to allow external CRDs, and those would be, we would just call them populators or whatever.
Yep.
So the only thing that's kind of outstanding on that is I need to work with the Snapshot folks, and I talked to Shin about this yesterday. The readiness gate stuff and things like that.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think, the biggest challenge going forward for the populators is how all of that's going to work.
Yep. I think that's where the bulk of the work is going to end up being, actually. So
cool. Sounds good. I am super excited about this feature. This is going to be super cool.
Should I submit a design doc to the external CSI provisioner for that?
Let's keep the design doc in the Kubernetes community repo.
Okay.
That way it's kind of a holistic view of Kubernetes end to end. And then if there's any work that's external specific, we just do the work there.
Okay.
But
Sounds
overall, let's track it like a Kubernetes feature.
Cool.
Okay, next up is the ability to set a UID on a volume in addition to a GID. Status of this was keeping track of an existing thread. No namespace feature may be impacted. The link was this. Hemant, any updates?
Wait, I'm trying to find the. Yeah, no update yet. I'm still like this. I was looking for like if there's some design changes that has been done to this, but I think this we'll have to punt it to next quarter.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. Into next quarter, and let's stop tracking this for now. CSI sidecar, splitting them up into driver registrar, or splitting the driver registrar into separate repos. Is Luis on the line by any chance? Okay, I think we can give a status update on his behalf. This work has started. Initial PR is out to split the driver registrar into two separate programs. And then after that, they'll do the work to split it out in separate repos. Michelle, did you get a chance to look at this by any chance?
No, I haven't had time.
Okay. I'm curious if there are actually shared code between the two.
I had a brief look in it. I had some comments about, well, just the high-level usability aspects, like what documentation needs to be updated. The RBAC rules will probably need to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's really just the first step of doing some code refactoring.
Got it. Okay. Sounds good. I think this is important for 1.0. These are two completely separate things that are in the same repo, and that doesn't make any sense. All right, support for mount options in CSI external provisioner. This is already
that merged.
Merged.
And the other one merged too.
Oh, awesome. And that is allow mount options for CSI volumes in kubelet. Merged. And then nobody knows what improved dependency injection for volume plugins is, so we'll leave that for now. Okay, next up, PRs that need attention. Looks like Matt added a PR that is, oh, the block to beta. This is on my plate to review. I just need to find the time to sit down and review this. I will try and get to this today.
I also pinged Jordan to review from API side.
Perfect. Do we need approvals from Jordan or anyone else?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And then Ben, you have a migration issue that you wanted to discuss?
Well, this is a bigger topic, but I don't know what venue is best to bring it up in. So I kind of want to just find out who's interested and maybe set up some other discussions to tackle this issue. So briefly, NetApp has customers that use our existing dynamic provisioner, and we want to move to CSI, and we're going to have a situation where some customers will have some CSI volumes and some CSI PVs and some older Iscuzzy and NFS PVs. We'd like to be able to non-disruptively get them to all CSI, because underneath the covers, we're not going to move any data around. It's just changing the pointer in Kubernetes. So because of the fact that you can't rebind a PVC to a different PV, this gets kind of ugly. You can do it by deleting the PVC, creating another PVC with exactly the same name, force binding that PVC to a new PV that you create, and deleting the old PV and playing a bunch of tricks.
Yeah.
But that's not clean, right? That's nasty. And so I think it would be nice if there was a way to solve this problem. And my naive thought is if you could just rebind the PVC to another PV, if we found a way to add that feature, it would address this. But I didn't know if anyone else had any other ideas.
So at least for like all the entry plugins, we're planning on doing this whole migration thing.
What's the full migration thing?
Where basically if you specify, if we're processing a volume that's specified the old way, we go ahead and proxy all the calls to the CSI driver.
Right. So I mean, that will work. So if we have like an existing NFS volume and the NFS code goes away, then the NFS CSI driver will take up the job of doing the attach detach. But what we're saying is we don't even want that. We would just want to take that, our CSI driver knows how to do the attach detach for that volume. So we just want to change it from a NFS PV to a CSI PV with the NetApp type or the Trident type in our case, right? So it'll point to exactly the same thing, but we want to use our CSI driver rather than the default one, which requires changing the PV. It'll point to the same data. The users won't know the difference, but it'll be cleaner because there will only be one CSI plugin involved.
So maybe I'm not following. I thought so. Michelle, wasn't the migration stuff? Wasn't it literally just you flip the switch and you're on CSI, and then it knows how to manage anything that was created before? Because the only thing we care about is the actual deprovisioning of things that don't exist.
I guess the challenge. So the challenge specifically for NFS stuff is,
or Iscuzzy.
The way
I mean, we have the same situation for Iscuzzy.
The way that the migration works is that we actually have code in tree that like basically hard codes what the proxy CSI driver is. And for things like NFS, where like it could be all sorts of different, vendor specific NFS plugins, we won't be able to do that same mechanism.
I wonder, based on the work that David is now doing on the node info object to specify how migration happens, if we could have something along the lines of like a map that says, this is the CSI driver that I want you to use for migration, and you could opt in on a cluster by cluster basis. And so it would be the same migration code that's being implemented, except you can potentially include a larger subset of in-tree volume plugins. So you can say, please reroute my NFS to this external driver.
I guess my worry there is there's no guarantee that all of your NFS volumes were created by the same external provisioner. Like we really want to just replace the PV or change the type of the PV. And that's the simplest thing to do. And
all the migration code does, it makes existing PVs work with it just redirects them to the new CSI drivers, whereas we want to be able to support the new PVs also for operations that are, let's say, NetApp specific. We want to be able to operate on those.
So ideally,
we want to be able to
like a migration tool, and the tool would say, take these PVs and somehow convert them into this new type.
Yeah, so we have a POC today that what it does is it goes through and deletes all your PVCs. It marks all the PVs as don't actually delete this. Then it deletes all your PVCs, and then it recreates new PVCs with exactly the same name and options, but pre-bound to a new PV that is of the CSI type with the Trident provisioner, and that works. But the problem is a user would see all their PVCs getting deleted, and they'd say, "What the heck? This is weird." We'd rather do it, behind their back, because they don't need to know what PV it's bound to. It doesn't matter to them, and they'll get exactly the same experience.
Nothing prevents you from binding and rebinding manually, right? It's just cumbersome.
Yeah, it's cumbersome, but he's also saying that that he doesn't want users to see the PVs being created and deleted.
I think it is possible to rebind the PVC to a different PV without having to delete the PVC, but the sequence is pretty tricky. Like, you have to get everything right.
Okay, well, I'd like to learn more about that, because my proposal was going to be that we should add that, but if it already exists.
Sorry, so I thought you were already doing that. So you're currently deleting the PVC and recreating everything?
Well, that's the proof of concept way of doing this, but I don't think we could ship that, right? Okay. Because users might have automation around doing something automatically when a PVC gets deleted, and if we're doing it, just to do a migration, the automation might trigger unintentionally, and so we really want to not delete the PVC and create a new one. I mean, additionally, things like the UUID changes when you do that. which people shouldn't care about, but they might.
So yeah, Michelle is completely right. There is a way to be able to do rebinding, Michelle and Brad. So yeah, we can talk to you offline about.
Okay. Yeah. I'll follow up and try to figure out how that works, because that might save us.
Okay.
It's not something that we want to like document and say that we support, though, right? Because it's a scary operation.
Yes.
Certainly, it's something you would only want to do when it was detached and not attached to anything.
And I think everybody's migration strategy is going to be a little bit different here. You know, for example, like the CSI EBS driver is, you know, we did a lot of work to make sure the in-tree EBS stuff works well. I don't see us just switching over to the CSI EBS driver just because it's available. And I think we'll, you know, as far as our customer is concerned, we'll probably say, hey, if you want to go and experiment with the CSI driver for a while, that's fine. But we're not going to try to migrate in-tree stuff to out-of-tree, you know, as soon as it's available.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I see it. Is it'll be a case by case basis. Whoever wants to migrate their stuff can do something like this. Whoever doesn't need to.
And maybe we could have some tips. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the specific motivations for us is in order to implement Snapshot support, you have to do a ton of work as a dynamic provisioner. But if you have a CSI plugin, it just works.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can only take a snapshot of a PV that is of the CSI type.
Yep.
For Trident at least.
Yeah.
And
if
so
you guys want to put this into a common repo somewhere where others can help, it sounds like it might be generally useful for the community to have some sort of tool that does this.
Okay, yeah. Well, you said Michelle is the one who knows the secret of rebinding. I'll follow up with her.
Michelle? You can start with Michelle and me, and then we can try and point you to other gurus. I think Jan is the one who wrote the PVC, a lot of that code, so he's probably most well versed in it.
Okay, well, thanks. This is helpful.
Cool. Thanks for bringing it up. And anything else anybody wants to talk about today?
Oh, I don't know if you have time, just 4 minutes. I just added that volume resizing, the online thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Oh, that's the wrong PR you clicked, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, like currently we document that to finish the resizing, you have to delete the part and you know, like recreate the part, and this PR changes the flow to you just edit the PVC and that's it. So that's great, but we have been thinking, like I've been thinking in particular that like, should it be opt-in, like, you know, like users who are used to like they upgrade and they're like they have to read the release notes carefully, because they might not want to do this online upgrade automatically, like they might on the file system, so on the file system resize. So that's the main concern I had, and I was talking to Matthew yesterday about the same.
What would the drawbacks be of just having everybody do online expansion?
So Michelle discovered a bug the other day, like where the MKFS is going on, the volume is getting detached, and like similar thing could happen during the resizing. It's basically like it could result in problem, and online resizing could exacerbate that problem. So that's the main concern that I have. And I mean, I know that MKFS and the part get deleted too soon. That I'm still looking into it, and we'll have hopefully a good solution to that. But obviously, this online resizing, enabling it will require an API change if we want to make it an opt-in.
Okay.
So.
Anyone else have a comment or opinion on this?
Sorry.
Okay, I think it seems reasonable if there is concern about the safety of doing this by default. we should probably document that along with the ability to turn it on if we actually genuinely believe that there could be issues. But having some way to be able to do resizing and disable this feature if something comes up seems reasonable. You could also like have it on by default, but have a way to be able to control it and disable it if you wanted to. So it could be opt out. But either of those options seems reasonable to me.
Okay.
But having a switch seems reasonable considering there could be issues.
Yeah, so when we talk about switch, I think we have to update the proposal to have where the switch will live. I think that's the most thing. Like, will it be like on an API level, like in storage class or somewhere, or will it be like?
So I think this is the tricky part of resizing, is that we kind of piggybacked a imperative operation on the mutation of the PV object or the PVC object, which is odd. I like what we ended up doing with the snapshots work, where we have a separate object and you have a separate snapshot storage class. I wish we had something like that here, but we don't. So I'm open to whatever ideas you have.
Okay. Okay, I think the question becomes, do we like want to merge it in 1.13, and because it'll become beta, and if you want to tackle it in this thing, then we have to.
Yeah, no, I think we should hold off. Let's get the API right. Let's take some time to think about it. I don't think there's any rush to get this feature in, so let's hold off for 1.13.
Okay. Yeah, I agree, I think. Okay.
All right, cool. Let me update that over here. So online. We'll just go ahead and scratch that from here as a feature we're tracking. And you can update, it's just a feature issue. It's not even a feature issue. Okay, cool. Anything else?
No.
All right, that's all that I have today. If there's nothing else, then we'll reconvene in 2 weeks. That will be post code freeze. If you have any features that are going in, reminder, we are very, very close to code freeze, and I believe today is the deadline for having, if you have a feature, you need to have an empty docs PR created as a placeholder for the docs folks to know that you are going to write documentation.
Hey, Saad?
Yes.
In 2 weeks, it's American Thanksgiving.
Yes, good point. I will certainly...
It's next week.
Let's take a look.
Code freeze is next week.
Yeah, code freeze is next week, and then this meeting overlaps with American Thanksgiving in 2 weeks. So I'll just delete that. We'll meet in 4 weeks then, on the 6th, unless we want to offset by 1. Any preference between offsetting by 1 week or just meeting in 4 weeks?
Which week is KubeCon again?
KubeCon is December. Let me take a look at it. The week of December 10. Currently, there's no SIG meeting planned for that. It's the prior week and the week after that.
So if we offset by 1 week, then we'll run into KubeCon with the following one.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just leave it as is. I'm going to cancel the meeting over Thanksgiving. If there's anything that you want to discuss in the meantime, feel free to send out a message on Slack or over email, and we can always set up one-off emails if there's anything that needs discussion. Otherwise, we'll reconvene in 4 weeks, which happens to be right before KubeCon. KubeCon Seattle, that is. All right, that event has been deleted. And we'll see you in 4 weeks.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.